What's up and what's happening, y'all? Welcome back to the TPE, the Pivot Experience. My name is Alex Hill. I will be you guys' host and guide for today. And on today's episode, we have a very special guest online. This young man has played a pivotal role in my life and in my family's life. Actually, he officiated our marriage over 11 years ago. This I can't say enough gleaming words about the role that he's played, from his endorsement of our initial business when me and Lindsay had our boutique back in 2015 to now when we're doing interior design, and he's stepped up to jump on to be our first guest on the TPE today. And I'm talking about none other than the Dr. John R. Adolph. Okay, so Dr. Adolph, how you doing today?
Man, I am so honored and flattered to be able to say I am guest number one on the TPE with my friend and brother Alex Seal. Kudos, congrats, all of that. I just love the idea behind it, the philosophy that pushes it, and I'm honored and pleasured, man, to be in here with you, man. Thank you for having me.
Yes, and thank you for mentioning that. As you know, guys, the TPE is all about pushing progress over perfection, and we're all about getting outside of our comfort zone and steering this ship that we call life. And I feel that this guest, Dr. Adolph, has an abundance of a perspective. He's been here in our local community for over 25 years. He definitely has his footprint and his hands on what's going on in this community. And just kind of starting right there, Dr. Adolph. You came here in 1996 to steward a congregation of, what is this, 50 people? Is that right? You came in here and said, hey, you graduated, you was given the opportunity to come in and fulfill your pastoral calling. And then this thing has ballooned into something that's amazing from what I read. It's over 5,000 active members. You've built a baby city over there about a church. You got a lot going on. So I guess my first question would be, did you think that this was going to turn into this? Did you think, like, why, when you came to Beaumont, little old Beaumont, I can't imagine what it was back when you came, but when you got here, did you think this is what it would have blossomed to?
Okay, so here is the honest, open, truthful answer. No, absolutely not. I had no idea that God would bless me the way that He has. I had every doubt and reason to believe the opposite would happen. What I mean by that is Beaumont has 7 exits, 114,000 people, wait for it, on the last 4 censi. So that means for the last 4 censuses we've taken, we've still had an average total, one small airport, one airline that flies in and out of here. But I've watched God just grow us numerically, financially, spiritually, faithfully, politically. I mean, you name it, God has just been so kind. So my first honest, open, very transparent answer is no. If you would have asked me, well, what was the vision? Still the same, to meet the needs of the total person, man. To love people to the way that people would want some of what we have, only for us to share Christ with them. That's it in a nutshell. The rest has been a wonderful interwoven tapestry of failures that were not final, and a future that God would still hold it, prove Himself faithful. That's the honest, transparent answer, man.
Well, you said something that stuck out to me that kind of brings me back to earlier in our relationship. You guys had a marital event at the church, and you split the guys up. You split the husbands up, and y'all split the wives up, and then you were in there with the husbands, and you told us something that I think I hold on to with me right now. You said that you would tell your deacons that, hey, if we focused on the person and not the numbers, if we focused on creating relationships, deepening bonds, and deepening our connectivity with the congregation, the numbers will take care of themselves. And so I think what you're saying to me, what it sounds like is that you all's deep focus on building relationships, genuine relationships, not just fruitless relationships, relationships that bear fruit, and you are being blessed in return for that, and meeting the need of the person. Like I used to, and let me sidebar here, and I'm bad about this, so I apologize. When we first came to the church, I'm not even gonna lie to you. We first got to the church, y'all was repeating the vision statement every service, and I was like, this seems like a little overkill. To do it every time, we got it. But then, as I grew in my leadership, as a man, it dawned on me. It's like, okay, everyone who is in the cathedral has no excuse not to know what the vision statement is, because we recite it every time. And then the more you recite it, and there's life and death in the tongue, those words become more magnified. They become more real. They get deeper. And so so kudos to you for that vision, to be able to say, hey, let's do this every time. And I don't know if that was an original idea of yours or what, but I think it definitely has paid dividends in light of what we're talking about right now, how the congregation has blossomed, because you can't help but to realize every week, at least once a week, everybody's gonna hear the vision statement. And most organizations, when you talk about, apart from the church,
right,
they have visions, but they don't. I'm sure there are people that touch the organization, that's in and out of the organization, do not know what that vision is. So, man, major kudos to you for making that a staple of the service. So, the next thing, I guess, I want to ask you is that, let's in this midst of growth, you mentioned that you've had some failures, right? You've mentioned that there have been some adverse things. Like, let's talk about some times where you feel like you've had to pivot. Let's talk about some times where you felt like you had to, all right, we set out to do A, but we had to go and do plan D and E. And what was the thought process behind those adversities, and then how did you deal with them?
Let me begin by saying this, Alex. In a moment of just being completely transparent, no one likes to talk about failure, but I would tell you, man, that failure has become a friend, not a foe. I've learned more in my endeavoring and failing than I have in my endeavoring and succeeding. A football team runs, doesn't score a touchdown. Some of them are 3 yards, some of them are losses, some of them are 20-yard gains, but the goal is the end zone. I would liken it to that, where I have seen numerous things that I have set out to do and just seen abysmal failure. Uh, for instance, when I arrived was humongous. Keep in mind, I'm from New Hope Baptist Church, Alex. Uh, 100 people on Easter was a jam-packed church to me. So when I'm at this big campus on Washington Boulevard, I'm like, wow, we'll never see this full. But I watched God fill it, the first service to a second service, and now I'm stuck. I don't know how to do a building program. I don't know about how to raise money. I don't know about any scheduling of the sort. I've never needed a lawyer or a band of attorneys or CPA. Alex, I am completely in the green, like as in, what do I do? And from mistake after mistake, I've learned the value of competency. I've learned to appreciate potentiality. And I know what it's like to just pure hustle. I can't get a touchdown. I'll settle for 3 yards and a cloud of dust. Wait, that didn't work. I'm going to try this. Let me give you an example. Recently, in my heart, if you're going to grow a church, you have to grow a youth department. You've got to have children. Find the kids, their parents will come. It works every time. So we start putting together a youth team. We hire 6 people, Alex, to come in and to help us to really push and promote youth and children at our church. Alex Seal, you're a parent. You understand how important this is? They're being discipled and they're in a good environment that's wholesome and rich in many different ways, culturally, spiritually, academically, the whole thing. Man, we set out, we had meetings, we hired 6 people. Alex Seal, 3 of them never really worked for us. You have 6 questions and you miss 3, that's a 50. Wait, sir. But from the 50 came a youth ministry that's bursting at the seams. The Yak is filled to capacity. The Fall Fest had over 1,200 people at it. Uh, it's been great. However, the failure has led me to the next phase, and that is not to settle for 3 yards. The matter is, I need 100 so I can get a touchdown because I'm not looking for a field goal. Excellence is always the objective, no matter what we do. But from the failure, it just means you've got to learn from your mistakes. It means you've got to gain and garner from things you've done incorrectly, press your way forward. So, you know, just we just recently paid off the note on the building, 14.6 million. I learned so many things about how banks handle money. Man, Alex Seal, when I tell you I've learned the value of an interest rate, I've learned things like early payoffs and penalty. Debt instrument, you probably don't want to get trapped into that unless you're planning something for at least 20 years. Just, I've learned the value of a back end load versus a front end. Just different financial pieces that I had no clue about, that I've learned from failing and then realizing that failure wasn't final, that it wouldn't cancel my future, and that forward progress was still a must. So it's been there. When I tell you, fail, first down, fail, fumble, wait, fail, recover. Just, I would tell anybody that.
Wow, that's incredible. Like, I can't imagine that level of responsibility. And here's the thing: what people don't realize is, they hear about the remnants or the outline of the story, but they don't know about having to deal with those adversities and deal with people in real time. Like, you're still having to preach, you're still having to put together sermons. I tell people all the time, it's not like I can put a pause over here so I can go address this issue over there. Like, you've got to be able to balance those plates and keep all those plates spinning while doing your primary job. Hey, being a husband doesn't stop. Being a father doesn't stop. Being a pastor, a friend, a brother, a son, an uncle, all that does not stop. While you're going through these adversities, and I think the tough thing is, and I think this is where some of the rub comes in. You're passionate about what you do from a pastoral standpoint. You're passionate about the growth. You're passionate about all these different things. However, you have to be guarded in making sure that passion doesn't supersede what your key priorities are. Like, why are you doing this in the first place? You don't want that to get in the way of that. So that leads me into my next question: how do you balance it all? You have a hefty ministry. You have a family. You got college kids now. That I see on Facebook I was like, whoa, these are grown-ups now. They're adults now. And so how are you navigating these waters, or how did you navigate the waters, and how are you navigating them now? Like, just kind of give some examples on that.
God, family, church, and everything else. That's why a weight loss program where you calorie count. We understand. I'm only going to eat this many, but I ate that many, or I didn't do that, or I should have done this. It's just always a continuous juggle. What I would say to anyone has to remain the main thing. And anytime the main thing loses its place, then you are no longer able to help the main thing, which is the main thing. That has been that's been my mantra for the main thing. My family is the main thing. You made me laugh just now because you were near me when God allowed me to adopt Simone and Jonathan. So we adopt Simone at 3 months old. Man, she's been a blessing to our lives. Jonathan at about 18 months old. He's been here at Prairie View A&M University on the president's list, Alex. I boast this faithfully. She hasn't made one B in the time she's been on campus. She did not get that from yours truly. Let me just be the first to admit that. And then my son Jonathan is at Houston Tillotson in his freshman year, and we're trying to hooray him so he'll stay in it. My fatherhood had resources, but in many ways I was absent. So I want to say thank God for Lady Dory, because even though I made big events, the concerts and the recitals and the games, I made it to the playoffs. I did that. But Alex, for 17 years, I didn't take a salary for income and a living, writing books, doing plenaries, symposiums, revivals, and on the road. Man, I can remember this so clearly, Alex. I used to have 3 travel bags, one that I had in operation, one that was being cleaned and prepared for operation, and one that was packed for the next trip. Alex, it's only 52 weeks in a year. My life has shifted a great deal. This is the most I've been home ever, and I have learned the benefit, bounty, and blessing of it. Again, through the lenses of failure. Wait, my children have had the best of everything. I've made sure I've sacrificed for them. But let me tell you this, because you're a young father. I would tell any young dad, anyone who's listening, $1 for every hour is your match. Keep the dollar, give them the hour. We tend to do the opposite as men. We tend to give them the dollar. Here's the money, I got to run. I say time is more valuable. If I could redo it right now, we would probably do without some of the niceties that we are used to now. And I would give them more of my time. Because I looked up and Dora the Explorer was gone, Alex. It was replaced by, her first cycle. I'm like, oh my God, what happened? My time just took on these metamorphic attributes of a butterfly. I just got away from it, And so when I say that, I mean this. I could have done so much better with time. I never forget when I first hired my executive director now, Brooklyn Williams. She was excited to become a part of the staff. When she got to the back office of the church where the was is, she said, in public, you look phenomenal. TV, broadcast, this and that, books and all of that. She says, but then behind the scenes, this thing is a mess because I didn't have the time. I needed someone to come in and learn the value of a back office administration. Whereas now I have a chief director of ministries, and I have a chief finance officer, I'm a chief administrative officer. I had none of that back then. I had to fail my way to it. So my issue right now, as it relates to that, is I've learned through the school of hard knocks, which gives you the test and then gives you the noting thing. That's what I would tell you.
Awesome, man. No, I think you said it very well, and I literally said this to myself the other day. There's that phrase is you don't want to be a champion in the streets and then a loser at home. And sometimes you find yourself you're tricking yourself thinking that, hey, you're doing all of this for your family. You're doing all of these different things for your kids, but then you look up and go, man, did I spend time with the youngest one today? Literally, that's how some days I go, did I pick the baby up today? Did I, and me and Lindsay, we talk some days, and some days it's like, well, wait, I only seen you for 5 minutes this morning, and I saw you 10 minutes before we went to sleep. When do we get that connectivity? So, man, that was rich, and I appreciate that perspective on that. How would you describe your leadership style? at the church or any organization? How would you describe how you go about leading?
Um, let me jump in by saying there are so many leadership styles. Um, I also want to make sure that I echo the sentiment of Paul Lee Chan and Mike and Dr. Maxwell here, that everything rises and falls with leadership. Period. Um, whether you are a father, whether you are a CEO, a CAO, a pastor, a superintendent, it does not matter. Whether you are a took this team from a 2-11 record to a 13-0 record and looking at 15-0 if they can win the next two games. When you get through, it's leadership. Okay, period. End of story. You show me a great church, I'll show you a great leader. Wherever that leader is. Perfect? No. Great? Yes. My leadership style, empowerment is this, Alex. I want to find people who can be what I cannot be in a given area or a given discipline. And I want that person on my team so that when you get through, they are able and they outproduce me. More than likely, your leadership won't help me because I can do your job better than you can. I love being able to say there is a Felicia Young, there is a Brooklyn Williams, there is a Karen Davis, there is a Malbro. Leaders at our church right now in my stead offer so much in their discipline that no matter where you go in their discipline, they are educated in that discipline and credible. They're Christian, they have good character, and they have the potential of still growing more, but their proficiency where they are matters a lot. In short, when people look at me and they say, wow, you built a neighborhood. Well, that's not true. Community development. And she built a neighborhood. And I just happen to take the credit for it. People come in and say, wow, man, you got a great music ministry. Thank you. I appreciate that. But the truth of the matter is, I have a gentleman who's been doing music ministry since he was 12 years old. So now we have people who say, wow, Pastor Adolph, you're doing great with this administrative structure. Will you help us? Well, I went from being just in the back office with cons all the way up to human resources. When she left there, she left at her own will. She's wanted something new. Now she works full time for me. So when you get ability and a kind of the deep waters, I've got some people who know. Man, it's why I think you're valuable where you are. Because when you get there, it doesn't matter what Chick-fil-A you run. The one you are going to be at is going to be excellent because you bring that to the table. This is this is that whole new piece that the leadership brings. Whether it's style, philosophy, whether it's idiomatic function, whether it is the goal being goal oriented, doesn't matter. When you get through, that leader will never be flawless, but can always have a functionality that says, I'm going to get this job done. I was looking the other day at ESPN and just admiring a distant friend, a cohort, should I call him, Deion Sanders. I was in business with Deion in the late 90s. He was the leader of Prime Prep Academy in Dallas, Texas. Well, I was on the board of Prime Prep. I had the pleasure of sitting in meetings with him all the time, hearing his voice all the time, noting his philosophies all the time. The problem was that the state of Texas had very difficult, stringent standards for new charter schools to follow. So we ultimately lost the charter. But I have always admired Deion Sanders' ability to just shift the philosophical idealism of a group, one of total confidence, one of total we will win. I'm a SWAC baby, by the way. Texas Southern University to my heart, right? HBCU. And to watch him go into that and take a team that was 2-13, Alex. I mean, 2-11. What? It is simply leadership. And they were criticizing him, saying he's dogmatic. He doesn't listen to anybody. He has it his way or no way. I heard all of that. When you get through with all the criticisms, here's the functionality. They are the undefeated Jackson State Tigers. That's what I have to say about that. Whether people like it or not. He has offers from Colorado and two others he's keeping in hiding. All of those are seven-figure money to a gentleman who is a baseball World Series champion and a Super Bowl champion who understands sports. So it's leadership. So if you ask me mine is empowerment. Mine is shared. I think any leader has to do everything, whether he or she realizes it, is a dictator, not a leader. Leaders empower people to do the work, and that's what I believe I do.
Man, that is incredible. I don't know. I might have gotten an exclusive today. I don't know how many people know about that Deion Sanders story, that primetime story. That's pretty awesome. I had no clue that
Yeah.
you in primetime had some. And you can. And I guess the thing about it is, and I think this is what makes me so like passionate about leadership. It's applicable everywhere you go. We've seen Deion's excellence on the field. We saw what made him probably one of the best cornerbacks we've ever seen. We saw, him having the ability for a brief period in time to be a two-way player. He played baseball. He did, he was a specimen in that, and I think that he's taken those qualities from an athletic standpoint now that his body has gotten older and has transferred them into a situation where what he's doing at Jackson State is incredible. And I think that and I can see, just shifting gears here a little bit, I can see your leadership style in terms of the empowerment. I've just watched you do it. I walked into the church. I mean, maybe the first month that I was there, we went to an evening service, and I walked up to a gentleman by the name of, I believe his name was Reverend Elgin Stevens. And I asked him, I said, hey, because let me tell you this. My wife hated when I said this. And when I walked in, I said, yo, this is a business. Hey, we're finished at this time. We start another service at this time. The way everything was orchestrated, I'm like, hey, this is not we just gonna wake up and do this. This is highly coordinated. This is highly orchestrated. And when I walked up to him, I said, hey, I want to get involved. I have an idea for a ministry. He told me, well, hey, Pastor Adolph's gonna want a business plan, and he's gonna want some actual real data and some real commitment in terms of what it is that you're wanting to do before he just says yes to it. Now he's more than willing to partner with you in any venture, if it makes sense, but it got to make sense. And so I think your empowering nature isn't reckless. I think it's very targeted. I think it's very specific to what you need and and the needs of the things that you're doing. So yeah, I've witnessed that for quite some time now. That's awesome. So my last and final question. Let's go back 25 years and say, and you saw yourself walking down the street. You knew it was you, but you're now in your current form. What would you tell yourself, your younger self, like to do differently than you did before, and why? Like, what advice would you give yourself when you first got to Beaumont, knowing what you know now?
Man, that is a whale of a question, man. And that's a good they asked me that. So at 56 years old, if I saw the 28-year-old young man walking down the street, what would I tell him? Wow. I would tell him to learn to move this, Alex. I made quick, fast, hurried decisions, which caused me to make some mistakes that were completely unnecessary. Um, at 56, I would rather measure a thing 10 times and cut it right once. So just slower decisions. Number two, I would tell myself, be patient. Eyes because of the organs on the outside of it. The vital organs are interior and need time to do what they do well. Your pancreas, your spleen, the stuff that makes us live is deep within. So I would tell myself, don't be in a hurry. Hold on. See, listen, when I was younger, man, I rushed things. Like, for instance, Alex, rushed to get that thing going. I went into debt in over $500,000 in 6 months. Who gonna make that payment, man? I didn't even have the money. The whole economy went belly up. During the Bush administration, the housing market went belly up. What are you gonna do? That kind of thing. Where I could do things like statistical data, form truths, but they are facts. So hold on, what are the facts here? What are my real risk factors? I would tell the younger me, go slower, think wiser, and then most importantly, man, I would tell the younger me this: whatever God has asked of his church, it's not my church, it's his church. Do that and become extremely proficient at it. For years and years and years, if you get caught counting numbers, you'll. And so I would tell the younger me those things, because if you do these things well, the fruit will happen from the tree you've planted. I promise you that. God is so faithful that what he has, and it will do well. In short, your children are going to become adults. So their core values matter. Hold on, forget about what it seems like, it's what it is like. Just where you are really able to get to where the rubber meets the road, because the ultimate end is to produce an adult who is strong enough, watch this, to carry you when you're old. Not just to survive, self anymore, if God lets you live that long. So ultimately, I would tell myself those three.
What's up and what's happening, TPE family? I sure hope you guys enjoyed that interview. Like we said earlier, that was our first interview here on the TPE. We definitely hope something was said that will help you become a better leader, a better spouse, just a better person as a whole. If you may notice, we might have had some technical difficulties during the time in which we were recording this. Again, this was our first time, but I'm so excited we was able to deliver what I felt like, despite the technical difficulties, a great wealth of information from somebody who has a ton of experience and has a ton of care for what he does and for his community. If you guys like this content, be sure to like and to share what you've viewed today. Subscribe to our channel. It will be on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Anchor. We look forward to your subscribership. We look forward to your listenership, and we more importantly, we look forward to helping you pursue progression over perfection, progress over perfection. So peace out from the TPE family. Y'all have a good one. Take this mind of mine.